And welcome into NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey. Producer Chris behind the scenes once again. If I sound a little bit nasally, I apologize. Wife gave me a cold. So it wasn't even the kid this time. It was the wife. Go figure. We'll be live for the next hour and change here, breaking down all the latest on the NFL. The first question of the two open NFL head coaching jobs available, which one is better? S for the Seahawks or C for the Commanders? Obviously, Ben Johnson not going to take either of them. That one certainly came down as at least somewhat of a surprise, I think, to most people. At least most of us fans in media. Maybe the Lions knew it was coming. I don't know. A year ago, 2 years ago, whatever, undoubtedly would have been Seattle because of the Dan Snyder stink around that organization. I think it's better now in Washington. Now, it's still a new owner. You have a new GM who I like, Adam Peters, I think has upside. Still a bit of an unknown. Number 2 pick, though, and a lot of cap space. I think this Commander's job, more than it's been in a very, very long time, actually isn't a disaster class job. How about that? Still pick Seattle if you want to. But I do think this Commander's gig is better than what we have come to normally associate with Washington. They're trying to get out of poverty, and they're getting closer and closer. They're getting closer with Dan Snyder now gone. So S or C in the comments section here. CJ DeYoung says S. Tar Heel Cowboy says S. Derek Young says C. King C says S for Seattle. Lil Fonzie says C, or says S, excuse me. Shamari Peoples says C. Past says S as well. Among the other rumors we'll talk about today is what's going on with free agency. Quarterbacks, of course, play such a big role. Who will end up signing Kirk Cousins? Coming off the Achilles injury is a very real and sizable red flag. I would also argue that he's still a really good free agent because you don't find fringe even top 10 quarterbacks on the open market like you do with Kirk Cousins. Frankly, he is the only exception to it. As weird as that might sound, he's kind of the only one that's hit the market in this fashion that was in his prime. That wasn't like, at the decline or whatever, or an unknown or whatever. So who will sign him? Get those votes in for me in the comments section. Cleveland CBI says Pittsburgh. I don't mind that one. I think it's better than Pickett and Mason. Some Steelers fans don't want to hear it, but that's how it tends to go. Christopher says reunion with the Commanders. Oh, could you imagine? It would fix their quarterback issue, though. They haven't had one as good since he left. If they could do it all over again, they never would have let him leave because they've yet to replace him. Back to the Vikings, Denver, Tennessee. I think Tennessee's going to ride with Will Levis there. Vikings, Atlanta. I think that makes sense. The style is not that dissimilar from like like what he did in Washington. We did with the Vikings. It's all Ram Shanahan based stuff. I think Atlanta makes a ton of sense. Raiders could also work. It's not going to be the Colts. They're going to ride with Anthony Richardson, who I'm excited to see next year. Kami's also in there from Ava. Now, today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the fun and easy way to play daily fantasy sports. You're just going against the numbers. You're not battling thousands of other players. There's no pros and sharks and sharps, etc., who are going to, beat you out. You might have gotten all your picks right, but you didn't have the right values or whatever, and you come up short. It's just you against the numbers. 2 to 6 player stat projections, more than, less than. Watch those come in. Now, I have several different Super Bowl ones. We'll show you one of them right now. It's this one, a half-yard Patrick Mahomes. It's a freebie from PrizePicks. They're making it easy for you. Christian McCaffrey, more than 88.5 yards on the ground against a Chiefs run defense that's not great. I don't think so. Travis Kelce, more than 7 catches since the Niners had enough issues stopping Sam Laporta. Kelce's even better. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Now, as part of the Mel Kiper quarterback rankings and the Daniel Jeremiah big board we're going to break down today, who is your quarterback one? CW for Caleb Williams, JD for Jayden Daniels, or DM for Drake Maye. You've got the Heisman Trophy winner, and the not Heisman Trophy winner on the list. Kind of funny that all works out, right? CW, JD, or DM in the comments section of today's show. I'll give some shout-outs here as these flow in. Lil Fonzie says JD. Mark Barron says JD. Tar Heel Cowboy says Caleb along with Underground Radio. Lore says Jayden Daniels. John is me says Jayden Daniels. Tanner Chucker says CW as well. What else we got here? Another CW from Hurley. Say what, Chris? Your mic's not on.
There's more Jayden Daniels in there than I would have expected.
Heisman Trophy winner. Always gets the boost. Plus, he's electric. It makes it entertaining. Cali Lama says JD. Get those votes in. We will spend time on other quarterbacks as well as part of this conversation. And Bo Nix is one of them. Those three guys are obviously going to go in round one. So will Bo Nix go in round one as well? There's a lot of differing opinions on Nix. Senior Bowl is ongoing right now. We've seen plenty of Senior Bowl hype in the past, boosting quarterback prospects. It's a big week for Nix. The Auburn guy and the Oregon guy are two completely different prospects, and it's kind of impossible to balance them out together. On one level, I kind of hate the only takes one team mindset, because that's kind of a cop-out answer. Like, yeah, of course, but is it going to happen? I wouldn't be overly shocked because the supply and demand, once again, does not even out. Then again, we talked about Malik Willis, talked about Desmond Ridder. We talked about, all these other quarterbacks over the years being possible round one guys, and they're not going in round one. So will he go in the first round? Why for yes and for no? It's mostly yeses in there. He's got the mobility and the accuracy teams like. The Oregon offense, in many ways, was kind of a Mickey Mouse offense. And I mean that in a good way for college, but a bad way for evaluating players. Like, it was all short stuff. Like, he had almost as many he'd like half the screen yards as J.J. McCarthy total yardage. Almost 1,000 yards on screens. That's not real. Like, that's not, you can't draft guys, oh yeah, so many yards, but screen yardage. Like, okay, it's fake. Short passes, one read stuff. Like, there's traits to like there, but it's a lot of risk involved. All right, if you guys are excited for Super Bowl 58, which we have the preview up on the channel. We'll be live for it as well. If you are excited for the Super Bowl and or the offseason, then you can like today's video right now. I think most people should like today's video. It should be everybody, right? Like, who doesn't want Super Bowl and offseason stuff? I certainly do. So if you haven't already, please like today's video right now. Coming up live on today's show, NFL news and rumors. We'll break down the latest buzz, coaching and free agency-wise. Mel Kiper updated his big board and made changes to his 2024 quarterback rankings in a week, even though nothing changed from that standpoint, which is really kind of interesting. An NFL mailbag, 2 ways to get on the show. Use hashtag NFL, as some of you already have, or you can skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Super Chats are guaranteed. Hashtag NFL puts you at the mercy of producer Chris picking your question. We'll also break down Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 big board. We'll go quick on that so it's not a 50-minute long video, but we've got the full 50 list. We'll break it down for you. All coming up live here on NFL Daily. This is Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey, and we have the latest NFL news and rumors for you on today's video. We're going to begin with the coaching landscape. And the big news of the day, Ben Johnson isn't going anywhere. And what is a fairly big enough surprise, Ben Johnson is staying as the Lions offensive coordinator. He informed the Seahawks and the Commanders that he's pulling out of the race. He's not going to take the job. He's going to stick with the Detroit Lions. He's even getting a pay raise, by the way, staying on his contract, at least for now. It's a big win for the Lions and a bit of a surprise as well. And there's been we'll talk about the Commanders' impact here and the Seahawks' impact. There was some, wow, he canceled on them when they were mid-flight to interview him. Out of the Commanders' organization was the leaks, by the way, which is true, it happened. They were also flying out to meet with Aaron Glenn. So it's not like he only canceled on him and wasted a trip. Like they were going to do it anyway. So I think that was a little bit overblown. But it is noteworthy. Timing's not great from Ben Johnson either. So give me your one-word reaction to Ben Johnson choosing to stay with the Detroit Lions. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comment section right now. My one word is bold. Look, there should be jobs elsewhere next year. Maybe the Eagles' job comes open. Maybe the Cowboys' job comes open. Maybe another job comes open that can get you a top 5 pick again, just like the Commanders were offering you. Or a job with some good, balance and ready to win now. Maybe the Chiefs, maybe Andy Reid retires at some point down the line. There could be good jobs that come open. But there's always risk when passing on a head coaching job. There's only 32 of them. And what happens to Ben Johnson's stock or perceived stock if the Lions kind of collapse next year? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if the offense kind of struggles for whatever reason. We just saw it with Dan Quinn with the Dallas Cowboys, and his stock took a shot as a result based on really a half-season sample size. So there's always risk if you don't jump at that head coaching job. You don't want to take a bad one, but I think you could have argued the Commanders and Seahawks jobs were pretty solid. The Commanders had been heavily linked to Ben Johnson as the top candidate. Now, he wasn't viewed as a lock within the organization, to be clear, but they had the number 2 overall pick, a new GM, new ownership, tons of cap space. Honestly, it was kind of a fairly intriguing situation for the Commanders. And now they're kind of in okay, so what do we do here? How do we adjust and move forward after missing out on... I think if we're being honest, the most logical fit for them. Now what do? The known candidates for this gig, guys who have had second interviews and more. Dan Quinn, the Cowboys defensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn, who they were flying out to meet today as part of the Ben Johnson duo interview. Anthony Weaver, the Ravens assistant head coach, and Mike McDonald, the Ravens DC. And then only one other offensive guy. It's Bobby Slowick, the Texans offensive coordinator. Are you going to go offense? Because if not, that's the only, outside of they interviewed Eric Bieniemy, did not get a second interview. This is your second interview list. That makes things dicey. I'm not sure which route they go now. Seattle wasn't viewed as likely a fit for Ben Johnson. Dan Quinn and Mike McDonald have been the 2 most heavily linked candidates. Decisions for both these jobs should be coming soon. Mike McDonald, Dan Quinn, 2 defensive minds. Ajiro Evero, Patrick Graham got second interviews. Mike Kafka got in a second interview as well. Maybe he's a dark horse on offense. Maybe they add somebody else to the list, a Mike Vrabel, a Bill Belichick. Maybe somebody else pops into those lists, but Ben Johnson was viewed as a likely to get one of them. See what happens. So what is the better head coaching job? S for the Seahawks, C for the Commanders. It's the pinned comment on today's video. The ad comes on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and go vote. Let's move to free agency here, as there is a report from the Pioneer Press, we'll call it Vikings-based newspaper, Twin Cities, but that Cousins is looking for a $90 million guaranteed contract over 2 years. So in theory, that's, I would assume 2 years, 90 with $45 million per year. Maybe it's just $90 million the first year is guaranteed. There's some room for adjusting the numbers based on whatever, but that's a lot of guaranteed money over just 2 years for a guy coming off a torn Achilles. That's going to, I believe, raise some red flags. Cousins is a fringe top 10 quarterback, whether you put him inside or outside of it. And those types of guys don't hit free agency often. And there's enough teams that are in really dire straits for a quarterback that they might be willing to pay it. The last 4 years of Kirk Cousins, 8 games played. He was, by the way, if Kirk had stayed healthy, we were going to have MVP conversation on him. He'd have been right there alongside guys like Dak and Lamar in that MVP conversation. And he was good in 2022, good in 2021. He always puts up good numbers. He always has. He's always been that fringe top 10 quarterback. Is he enough? If the Falcons had Kirk Cousins this year, they win the NFC South. Arthur Smith still has a job as a head coach. Worth mentioning. So who do you think ends up signing Kirk Cousins? Sound off for me in the comment section right now. The Cousins odds break down like this. The Vikings are the betting favorite, plus 150. The Falcons at plus 600. The Broncos at plus 700. Raiders, Patriots, Steelers. I like the Falcons there with those current odds. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. You can still do daily fantasy for the Super Bowl. Also for the NBA. They've even got other sports like esports available for you. It's daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 6 player stat projections and pick the more than or the less than on those stat projections. I also love that they offer injury insurance. If a player goes down the first half of a game, does not come back, your picks stay in play. You do not lose everything because the guy got hurt and you hit the other 5 picks you hit, but the one guy got hurt so you got screwed. That's not something you have to deal with on PrizePicks. I love that feature. Here is my Super Bowl 3-player prize picks. One of them, I should say. I've got Christian McCaffrey more than 18.5 yards or rushing attempts. I think they're going to try to run the ball against the shaky Chiefs run defense. Travis Kelce more than receiving yards, 70.5 is that figure. And I'll go Rashee Rice less than 6.5 catches. I think you're going to see Charvarius Ward on Rice, and I think that'll help limit him a little bit. And it'll be a Travis Kelce heavy attack for the Chiefs. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use that code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Russell Wilson is our final talking point here on today's show. I still laugh every time I see his headshot. Who puts on eye black for the team photo headshot? Anyway, I digress. Expectation is that Denver's going to cut Wilson this offseason. Didn't get along that great with Sean Payton this past year. It is unlikely, I believe, a team ends up trading for him. It's that the money doesn't really make a ton of sense with the way the guarantees are because it's going to guarantee the base salary next year. Teams aren't going to want to do that. $17 million of his 2024 salary reportedly has offset language in it. Now, the initial report here also said it was $37 million for this year, which is not true. That's not how any of this works. So there was some bad miscommunication of like what the money was, but this is the actual reality. $17 million. I don't know if he commands that on the open market, which means you might be able to get him for the vet minimum. And, Russell Wilson with a $37 million guaranteed next year, if Denver keeps him, is not the same as Russell Wilson getting, the vet minimum for a year or whatever. Vet min this year and then big bonus next year. That's doable for a lot of teams out there. We'll go more in depth on this here momentarily, but don't miss any of our NFL news and rumors, etc. coverage right here on Chat Sports. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Now, in all the various rumors and speculative articles, etc. out there, the 4 teams that are most frequently linked are the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Minnesota Vikings, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Falcons. It makes sense, right? Pittsburgh's got Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. Are you buying those guys? I don't think so. Minnesota might lose Kirk Cousins, and it leaves Jaron Hall. That's not very good. The Raiders are probably not going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. He'll be a free agent. I'm sure he gets cut. And then it's Aiden O'Connell. The Falcons, Desmond Ridder. All 4 teams, by the way, might miss out on the top 3 quarterback prospects, which means a year of Russell Wilson, or 2 years of it maybe, or tying your job statuses to a J.J. McCarthy or a Bo Nix or a Michael Penix. That actually might make more sense for Russ, and then you see how it goes for teams that think or at least want to be close to winning in the near future. Now, that list does not line up necessarily with the current betting odds out there. The Falcons are the favorites for Russ. I still think Kirk Cousins makes so much sense for them. The Raiders at plus 550, which is worth mentioning when Russ did that whole, here's my list of trade fits. Raiders were on there. They're the one team that still could kind of make some sense since, Saints have committed to Derek Carr, obviously the Denver thing already. The Cowboys have Dak Prescott and money issues there anyway, so it doesn't make any sense. That's not really in play. The Patriots, would you rather have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Russell Wilson, or like Jayden Daniels / Drake Maye and insert free agent receiver here? The Vikings, of course, you mentioned them. The Commanders, I will say, not going QB at 2 and signing Russell Wilson would be a colossal mistake. That'd be a horrible idea. Could he compete with Daniel Jones for the Giants job? That'd be interesting. Tampa. Oh, I think they're going to bring back Baker Mayfield. I think the Saints make no real sense. So where will Russell Wilson play in 2024? And again, I apologize for the stuffy nose. The wife got me sick. It wasn't even the kid this time. It was the wife. Where will Russell Wilson play? Sound off with your predictions for me in the comments section. I'll give some shout-outs for the Russ one, too. But Super Bowl, kind of a big deal. Who you got? 4 for the Niners, C for the Chiefs. Last I saw of the odds, I think it was like basically a 1-point spread, somewhere in that range. Interesting. Sip some water here. Ooh, man. So again, sorry about the nose and the congestion. It's not fun, but unlike some people, we show up and play through the pain. Like maybe Joel Embiid. I don't know. I'm kidding. That's mean of me. Everyone's pot on him. I actually think he's a really damn good player. Obviously. Dustin says C. Dale says 4. DeTormand for the Russell Wilson says the Toronto Argonauts. Get ready to learn about maple syrup, bud. 4 from Tyler Evans. C from Dustin rushing as well. I see Raiders in there as well. A couple of hashtag NFL questions. Good. Keep them coming. We'll get to that on the mailbag here in a little bit. But first, of course, we're gonna talk some draft because I love talking draft. Go to what chat. You're good. It's fun for me. I enjoy it, and it's always fun. It's also fun to see. Some people like to operate in a bubble. I like to, because it's part of my job. I need to know what other people think of players, which is important. So we'll break that down here with what Mel Kiper has on his quarterbacks list. You guys are watching NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey, and today we're breaking down the updated Mel Kiper 2024 NFL Draft quarterback rankings. Now, Mel has been kind of updating his big boards each Friday, which it's noteworthy that he's making all these changes, and there are big changes on this one with the season long over, which I don't have a great reason why. Maybe he's being told things by the NFL or NFL scouts, etc. Who knows? No change, though, at number 1. His still number 1 overall player is Caleb Williams, the quarterback out of USC. His play was not as good this year. The numbers were not as good. I would also kind of argue that Lincoln Riley's designs of the offense kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit. There was almost some forced hero ball from Caleb Williams this season. And we're still about how, 30-5 was still really, really good. There are moments I wish he would just operate within the structure the way that the play is supposed to be. But he makes so many of uncoachable, out of structure plays that you live with that. You live with some of the die by the sword, live by the sword type of deals. A change here is number 2, as Jayden Daniels has managed to somehow jump Drake Maye in the past week for Mel Kiper. Daniels is the Heisman Trophy winner. He is electric. There's no way about it. I mean, you don't have almost 4,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards by not being dynamic. And it's funny because I would argue all the top 3 quarterbacks this year didn't get great supporting cast help, at least on defense, or even at times on offense for at least some of those guys there. My issues with Daniels are the deep ball is gorgeous. The mobility is wildly impressive. There are moments in both processing and accuracy, especially in the short to middle areas of the field, that it really comes and goes. And that does concern me. My fun player comp here, by the way, is Monstard version of Tyrod Taylor. But he's bigger, very slender, though. I think he's got better overall skill sets, too. But the mobility and the deep ball accuracy actually really does tie in well to Tyrod Taylor. Just a much, much, much better version, hence the Monstar aspect of it. Number 3 is Drake Maye, the quarterback out of UNC. Maybe it's just because he wears number 10 and wears some wristband stuff that it's Herbert for me. And he's also big and long. Like, if you were designing more of a prototype quarterback in terms of the size, the arm strength, the mobility, Drake Maye fits that a little bit more than Williams and Daniels, who Williams is kind of small. Daniels is very skinny and can add that much more weight. Maye also offers mobility. I think there's people who love Drake Maye as QB1. I get it. I think sometimes, because he throws a very pretty ball, like everything looks very smooth and fluid. It's not quite as at times, jittery or anxious as sometimes Williams and Daniels can get. But there are times he just flat out misses, but it looks pretty in the process. Kind of like how I think that's an issue sometimes for Trevor Lawrence as well. Who is your quarterback one? CW for Caleb Williams, JD for Jayden Daniels, or DM for Drake Maye? Go ahead and sound off for me at the pinned comment of today's video, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. Now to number 4, and this is where I think you'll see maybe some more disagreements on who should be 4 as opposed to maybe who should be in that one. There's a tier gap here. J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. There's a lot of things to like and a lot of things to be scared about. The up and downs and just the inconsistencies and the boomer bustness of McCarthy is very real. He's actually really good on third downs this year, outside of the Washington game, which is noteworthy because that was the biggest game of his career, Almost 3,000 passing yards, 22 TDs, only 4 interceptions, does offer mobility, offers some really good arm strength. There are times he even forces it. He's young, though. He's younger than this next group of tiers, got guys at 5 and 6. And if you are patient with him, I think there is franchise quarterback upside. There's also a concerning downside of he flames out, he's a huge bust, and there you go. Number 5 is Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback out of Washington. If you just flip even the highlights of the lefty to the righty, it looks fine. It's a little low, like in terms of kind of not loopy, but kind of flattened on the release. It's fine. The big concerns for Penix are A, how does he handle pressure and being moved off the spot? He's not a great athlete. He can move a little bit, but especially against Michigan, you saw some Michigan he had previously. Getting moved off his spot didn't go very well for him at times. And the biggest thing is the medicals. He's had 4 season-ending injuries. He played more than 4 years, by the way. He's actually kind of an older prospect. But the deep ball accuracy is also very good. Throws a pretty solid one. There's enough arm strength there, too. Do you trust the medical, and do you trust enough of the pocket awareness and presence that other guys have better than he does? Now, if you want an NFL jersey, you can get one for under $100. Go to chatsports.com/jersey deal. They've got Josh Allen. They've got Mahomes. They've got Kittle. They've got men's. They've got women's. They've got all kinds of jerseys for you under $100. Go to chatsports.com/jersey deal. We'll make sure that link is in the comment section and the description of today's show. Number 6 is Bo Nix. Now, the Auburn version was an undraftable football player. The Oregon-only version is actually far more intriguing, and I wouldn't rule out him going in round 1, even though I'm not sure I'd do that. The numbers are awesome for Bo Nix in that Oregon offense. He was moving the ball consistently, but there was a lot of fake yardage in there. And what I mean by fake yardage is this is a good thing for a college offense. You should run a Mickey Mouse offense. You should run one that has a lot of RPOs and screens and one-read stuff because it works. It works so well at that level. But in the NFL, the things that will make or break you as a franchise quarterback is not that stuff. You can't have nearly 1,000 yards in screen yardage in the NFL. It's just not going to work that way. Nix, I think he offers really great mobility. I value that. There is a potential NFL starter here in Bo Nix. But is it a low-end starter or is it a top 15 starter? And if you're not getting top 10 or even top 15 starting quarterback play, is that really worth that first-round pick? That's the question you got to figure out for all 3 of these guys, and if you think they're going to get to that point. That's probably a bit more so for McCarthy, who's much younger than Nix and Penix is, by the way. So pick a QB of this next tier. JJ for JJ McCarthy, BN for Bo Nix, or MP for Michael Penix Jr. Remember when Spencer Rattler was the future number 1 overall pick? I do. Oh, how the turntables sometimes. Rattler he was awesome in 2020 at Oklahoma. There's no way around it. 28 TDs, 7 MGs, and the whole point was he's going to take a step forward. He's going to be even better, and then he didn't. And lost his job to Caleb Williams. Goes to South Carolina, and it was okay. Supporting cast wasn't great. He's going to be a very interviewed prospect because you saw it in that Netflix show, QB1, I think it was Netflix. Maybe the leadership isn't always there. That's something that has to be sorted out. Sounds like it was much better in South Carolina. The arm is there, but is everything else beyond the arm there? We'll see. If he goes to a spot where he can develop, that's intriguing. The problem is, and this is kind of the issue you run into with a lot of these guys, you're trying to take a developmental quarterback who's going to be 24 as a first-year player. And if he couldn't sort things out through 4+ years in college, is it going to happen in the NFL? That's the concern you run into with some of these older guys. Number 8 is Michael Pratt, who I wouldn't be shocked if he's the 7th quarterback taken in this year's class. There are some things he does very, very well. He's not a statue in the pocket necessarily, and was fairly consistent while showing growth in his time at Tulane. He did miss some games due to injury. Again, I think some of the Tulane stuff was easy and simple, and that will also raise concerns for teams. But if you're looking for, if there is a day 3 sleeper at quarterback, maybe Michael Pratt is the guy that makes sense. Next up is Joe Milton, who will also be 24 years old. This is going to come in March for him. The arm is maybe the best in this class and maybe a top 5 arm in the NFL. He has a howitzer attached to it. The problem is, it's like trying to fire a rocket launcher in COD. You don't always know where it's going to go. It might just miss a little bit. And that's been the story of Milton's career. He was much better in Tennessee, but all the issues that still exist, you go, he was there in college for 6 years. Is it going to develop and grow? There is mobility. There's very good athletic ability. You know, Logan Thomas was a 4th-round pick at quarterback, eventually moved to tight end. That might be kind of like the worst-case scenario for Milton. Or actually, maybe it's Tyree Jackson, if you remember him, the Buffalo quarterback, who was once rated higher as a rookie in Madden than Josh Allen was. Let that sink in. Madden let a UDFA be a high-rated player. Go figure. The arm is incredible. Big week for him going on right now at the Senior Bowl. Number 10 is Jordan Travis, the FSU quarterback. Might end up getting drafted. So we'll see how that ends up playing out, as things currently sit. The injury was really heartbreaking because it also cost FSU a spot in the CFP. It would have happened otherwise. I love his toughness. I love his leadership. I think that might get him a spot as maybe a QB3 somewhere. I don't know if he has true starting talent and ability. He was also, by the way, in college for 6 years. He was actually a transfer quarterback. Of that list, very few quarterbacks didn't transfer. It's kind of crazy to think about that this entire quarterback class, top guys, the guys who didn't transfer were Drake Maye, J.J. McCarthy, and Michael Pratt. Everyone else transferred. Kind of crazy how much college football has changed. He turns 24, by the way, in May. So who did Mel Kiper leave off his quarterback rankings? Maybe some guys you like. Sound off for me in the comments section right now. Remember how I mentioned transfer quarterbacks? I can expand this list to top 15-ish, give or take, and you've got a lot of transfers on here as well. Sam Hartman, Wake to Notre Dame. He's also kind of pretty old. Devin Leary, NC State to Kentucky. Austin Reed was at Southern Illinois, West Florida, and Western Kentucky. Brendan Armstrong was Virginia and NC State and all these different schools. He's kind of bounced around in recent years. The other Tagovailoa is at Maryland. Tried to get an extra year. Did not get it in the end. There are some interesting teams, or interesting prospects, but these guys don't scream, future starter, maybe backup at best. All right, back to the QB1 question, because there was some good answers last time around. Who is your quarterback 1? CW for Caleb Williams, JD for Jayden Daniels, DM for Drake Maye. I go back and forth between Williams and Maye, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe we get some good info in terms of the better information comes out at the combine in terms of like the mental processing for even all three of these guys. Because the stuff that goes on in here is critically important for a QB. And if it doesn't materialize, if it doesn't develop, you're always going to be a little bit limited in the NFL. So CW, JD, or DM? Yes, Cobra Kai. Talia is Tua's younger brother. Also smaller, if you can believe that. Not a very big guy. Also not as good. Decent numbers at Maryland, but it's not. It's just not going to work for him. So get those votes in. CW, JD, or DM. If you guys enjoy our NFL mailbags, which we're about to get into here on today's show, then like the video if you haven't already done so. We appreciate your support here at NFL Daily, and likes are a simple, free, easy way to help us out. Plus, if you like videos, we take that to mean you want more of those styles. First up is a super chat from Mark. How did Mel become so popular? He's like the Joe Theismann of draft guys. You and your team blow him. Poll, how many think Tom makes a better GM and draft guy? You can type T for me or M for Mel Kiper. I guess go ahead and vote in the comments section. Another super chat from Chris B says, Jerry's going all in, Tom. LMAO sure, $5 million guaranteed. I will say, this is we film these on our Tuesday live shows, so keep that in mind. Jerry says at the Senior Bowl saying, he said we're gonna go all in this season. Of note, the Cowboys have given out one contract with more than $4 million guaranteed at signing, with an asterisk for Gerald McCoy, who got 9 but only got paid 3 because of his injury, since they signed Brandon Carr over a decade ago. Was Cedric Thornton, who got $9 million. They literally haven't given out $10 million in guaranteed money in free agency. So what is going all in by Jerry's standards? Doing a 1-year, fully guaranteed $8 million deal for Derrick Henry. That'd be all in by his standards. It's a low bar. Got a hashtag NFL question. That's how you get on the mailbags, by the way, folks. From Bowls Nation. Should Carolina sign A.J. Epinesa? You can. I don't think Epinesa is going to fix. I think this Panthers team pretty clearly needs a second edge rusher opposite Brian Burns. You need somebody who offers something else that can get after the quarterback. Epinesa is not a bad football player, and he had 6.5 sacks this past season. I would also like to point out that he had 2 against Jacksonville, and down the stretch this year, had none in the back half of November, December, and January. So you can add him. That's fine, sure. But if you go, we found our number 2 edge opposite Brian Burns, I think you're going to end up being kind of disappointed. From Jordan, should the T. Higgins trade the Titans for a second? Definitely not going to get a first, to be clear. I don't think this happens. I think the most likely path here for the Bengals is tag T. Higgins, don't trade him, maybe pay him. This is an organization that doesn't really, it's kind of what they did with Jesse Bates, right? It's team that doesn't really like to do trades. They don't do tag and trades ever. It's not their typical MO. It's a decent destination, Hopkins and Higgins and maybe Burks. It's appealing to a certain extent. I would not get my hopes up for that, however. So will the Bengals trade T. Higgins? I know a lot of NFL teams out there would certainly have some interest there. What do you think ends up happening? Y for yes and for no at the pinned comment of today's video, especially the ad comes here on YouTube. From Panner Chucker, where will Josh Jacobs end up this offseason? It's a great question. I don't know where he ends up. The musical chairs for running backs this offseason is going to be so interesting because you've got Jacobs and Henry and Pollard and Saquon and DeAndre Swift and Gus Edwards and Devin Singletary had almost 1,000 yards this year. There's actually a lot of James Conner, Eckler. There's a lot of really good backs out there, which then makes it interesting for, okay, who goes where and how much do they get? I'll always lean towards the Raiders bring him back. But if a team throws money at him, Jacobs should take it. For a lot of these guys, this is their chance at a big contract. It just might not be the type of contract they wanted. He's probably going to ask for Jonathan Taylor money. I don't know if he gets it. From Chris B, thoughts on Cowboys comments? Kind of don't mind them. Background here. Catboy is what us Cowboys people call Stephen Jones because he loves his salary cap limits. Basically said that the Cowboys have to earn back the trust of the fan base when they end the year the way that they did. It's understandable, and they should feel that way. I still some people, attacking Stephen Jones because they're just mad at him, and I get that too. He's right. Nothing Stephen Jones said was a lie. He is right. And until the Cowboys, have success the way it matters, the fan base will always have doubts. So I thought Stephen Jones was correct. Does he do anything to actually fix it? That's the real issue. Now, today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. You're just picking 2 to 6 player stat projections, more than, less than, on those stat projections, and potentially watch your money come rolling in. And if you're smart, you just got to beat the numbers. That's it. Any sport, brother, you can mix and match NFL and NBA for a very brief amount of time with the Super Bowl almost here. Again, it's more than or less than. Here's, I think, one of my fun Super Bowl PrizePicks slates. I got the freebie from PrizePicks, half a passing yard for Patrick Mahomes, more than. Then I took my 2 favorite ones beyond that. Christian McCaffrey, more than 8.5 yards on the ground. Chiefs' run defense is not that great. The Ravens made a mistake not putting the ball on the ground more. Travis Kelce, more than 7 catches since Laporta had a pretty good day against the 49ers last time. You can go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That link, folks, is going to be in the comments section and the description of today's show. From Mark, JJ believes all is well as he is trying to keep everyone. My only hope is JJ actually fills a few holes with good free agents. I draft best available. This is the way. This is how all teams should operate. Not all of them do, whether because they couldn't get the free agent they wanted, they chose to get the free agent that they wanted or should have wanted, or they just misevaluate. It happens. But specifically for the Cowboys, there's 3 avenues to build talent, right? Draft, free agency, trades. Their biggest free agent signing last year was like $500,000 guaranteed to a backup offensive lineman. That's not talent acquisition as a 365 day. It's not. From Lore, how will the Niners stop the running game in the Super Bowl? They had some success in terms of the results in the second half of that game against the Lions. I think your edges, Chase Young in particular, you got to keep contained. The Lions had some great success on that front, and their duo runs were awesome. Different style than what the Chiefs do to a certain extent as well. And your front 4, they can't get blown off the ball that far. I mean, there were so many 5-6 yards gains by David Montgomery before he even got contacted. So the point of attack has to be better. And I think that's more of an execution thing than it was a schematic thing. Underground Radio. Giants should move up or down in the draft. Ooh, it's a good question. If you are convinced you have to get one of those big 3 quarterbacks, try to move up. Otherwise, I'd probably just stay where I am. Let's say the quarterbacks are gone. There's a real chance you can get Malik Neighbors, or maybe you love Rome Odunze. One of those guys will be there for you, or a great offensive lineman. Now, maybe things kind of fall apart for you, but I do think going that route and staying where you're at, if the board falls the way I think it will, ends up making the most sense. Beyond that, if it's a nightmare where it's the 3 quarterbacks and the 2 receivers and you don't want Rome Odunze, then trade down a few spots if you can and take a tackle or Odunze instead. From Tony, will a team trade up to snag one of the top quarterbacks? I guess kind of ties into the whole Giants conversation there as well. The tricky bit here is you can make very real arguments that the Commanders, Bears, and Patriots, obviously not in that order, have just massive needs for a QB. And if they're not taking whoever the third one is, maybe that's not the route you want to end up going, and maybe a team doesn't trade up there. In theory, you'd be looking to jump maybe the Giants or the Falcons. So does a team like Denver get antsy? Possible. I could see if Daniels, falls out of the top 5, maybe a team jumps up then. But if they go 1, 2, 3, then you shouldn't be trading up as far as I'm concerned. Which 1, 2, 3 is pretty damn rare. Not very common. So how many quarterbacks do go in the top 3 picks? 0. No. But 1, 2, or 3. Go vote in the comments section. Chris B., you think Dan Quinn gets a head coaching job now? I think it's 50-50. Probably about right. I do think Ben Johnson not taking any of those jobs increased the odds on him because he's a finalist for both gigs. Mike McDonald, I think, ends up getting one. Is Dan Quinn next? Is it a Mike Kafka? Is it a Bobby Slowick? We'll know in the near future. From Finn's TD23, is there any news about Leslie Frazier and Miami with the defensive coordinator search? Again, filmed this on Tuesday. Last I saw was they requested an interview for him. I think there will be kind of a slower play on that job. There had not been very many DC spots filled. There's still some head coaching stuff to be sorted out. Once those get done, the DCs will begin to flow in pretty quickly, I think, after that, or at least in a week or so after it. I don't love that idea. I don't think Frazier's an elite defensive coach, but he could do a lot worse. And the Vic Fangio thing didn't end up working out. Kind of a big hire for Mike McDaniel. Got to get the DC right when you're now down to your third one in 3 years. From Cobra Kai World, where will Mac Jones end up? Patriots give him another chance, Marvin Harrison, or they trade him elsewhere? I think if Mac Jones is back, which isn't out of the realm of possibilities, there's somebody else in that building too. It can't just be Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. And this time it's different because Bill's gone. That's just not going to work. Mac was kind of broken last year, if we're being honest. So whether it's a veteran or a day 2 pick or whatever, if you do take Marvin Harrison Jr., there has to be other quarterback competition in that building, or else it's going to be a disaster, and you're going to be wasting a year of Marvin Harrison and other young core pieces on your team, and then you're picking top 3 potentially again at this time next year. We have free NFL YouTube videos for you guys every single day, so do not miss out. Hit that sub button right now. From Mark, a Cowboys defensive coordinator question, who do you want as as DC? Dan Quinn or Wink Martindale? I'm very curious to see what the market looks like for Don Wink Martindale. Have you noticed how quiet it's been with head coaching interviews for him? Has anyone else noticed that? Because I have. He's a blitz-heavy guy, and I don't think that's something that everyone wants to do. I think I'd be surprised if he didn't get a job, frankly. But I don't know, specifically for the Cowboys, if a blitz-heavy approach actually works with their personnel that well. You could do a lot worse than Don Martindale, to be clear, and everyone's mad at Dan Quinn, which I get. But for a 1-year borderline, guaranteed job security for a new DC, might not have your best pick of options. From Cleveland CBI, how bad did Lamar's stock take this postseason? Leads in 75 of 77 regular season, 2 of 6 playoff games. Crazy stat. I don't know how much it does. I think from a narrative perspective, it's a massive blow. He did not play well in that game. I thought the game plan was terrible from Todd Monken. By the way, why aren't you running the ball? The Chiefs' run defense was gettable all game long. We knew that going in. They didn't do it. It sucks for Lamar. I think in general, trying to make the narrative all or nothing of if you don't win a title, you suck. I'm not saying this is the case here for you, but I've seen it out there. You're going to have a lot of bad quarterbacks then. And then Josh Allen's not good enough. And Lamar Jackson's not good enough. Then Joe Burrow's not good enough. Then who is good enough? It's Patrick Mahomes. Frankly, if we're the quarterback comparison can't be Mahomes and Brady for everybody. Those guys should frankly be taken out of the conversation. From Martin, is a Joey Bosa trade more possible? Yes, it is actually. The Chargers are kind of revamping things a little bit. They saved $14 million with a cut or a trade. That's a lot. Good player. Very good player. It's a lot. New team would owe like $22 million, though. Might be an issue. So name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Sound off for me in the comment section right now. Bulls Nation, should Minnesota trade a first-round pick to New York for Daniel Jones and Evan Neal if Kirk Cousins doesn't re-sign with Minnesota? No, they should not. Daniel Jones is a negative asset right now. I don't think, and Evan Neal has not been very good so far. Plus, the Vikings don't really need a tackle. So no, I would not trade that pick at all. I think the Giants say yes, let's do it. The Vikings should not ever consider that, frankly. Cali Lama, I think Josh Daniels will ultimately be the Pats offensive coordinator. If not him, then who? It's a good question. I don't know what route the Patriots are going to go. We don't have much info on, Gerard Mayo. I kind of hope that they don't, because then it's the same team. It's just no more Bill and it's Gerard Mayo as the head coach. I don't know if that's really going to be enough for that team. I think you need some real change, going away from Belichick in the future. I kind of wonder if the reason why Bill didn't get the Falcons job is he wanted to get the gang back together with McDaniels. And maybe McDaniels just needs a nice year off to retool a little bit. Maybe that makes the most sense for all sides involved. All right, who is your guys' favorite NFL team? Sound off for me in the comments section. We'll give some shout-outs here as these come in. And again, I do apologize for the stuffy, messed up nose, because it probably doesn't sound the greatest. So my apologies. Cowboys, Patriots, DC, Cowboys, Niners, Cowboys again. Not a great time for it. Bills, Cowboys, Patriots. Now it's why we had so many Patriots questions today, doesn't it? All right, Patriots, Bills in there too. A lot of teams that just kind of feel bad right now for themselves. Not many Lions in there, which that stings. I feel bad. I feel very bad for him. Now, if you guys want a full NFL mock draft right after the Super Bowl, I'm talking 15, 20 minutes, whatever, after it wraps up, then like the video for me right now. It's a simple, easy way to help us, and it tells me what you guys want. So if you want that mock draft, like today's video for me right now. We're going to break down the top 50 big board from Daniel Jeremiah. We'll go quicker on a lot of these names, so it's not a 50-minute video. Let's focus on more of the ones that I view as interesting spots for these prospects. Number 1, number 2, no major surprises there. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. They're studs. They're going to be early-round picks. I can't be mad at it. What was surprising, number 3, Rome Odunze out of Washington. Over the quarterbacks, over the wide receivers. I was not ready for Odunze to be at that high spot. I like him a lot. I think he's an awesome football player. I have him as wide receiver 3, although he does have a pretty solid first-round grade for him. But I was not ready for him to be at number 3 on this list. 4 and 5, they make plenty of sense. Drake Maye, Jayden Daniels. That's 3 QBs in the top 5. Very high on this quarterback class for Daniel Jeremiah, who, by the way, I like a lot of his stuff. I don't always agree. That's a good thing, by the way. But I think DJ's got really good insight, really good film study, all that stuff that makes it valuable. And his boards also have a tendency to kind of match up with how the NFL views things, too. First defensive player, Terrion Arnold. Entered the year as the other Alabama corner, and more buzz that I continue to hear of him being just the Bama corner for this year's draft class. Again, I would not put him at 6 myself. I like the player a lot. He's got all the traits that you like. I do think that, hey, teams stood him more than the other guy kind of does raise some concerns for me, but he can go inside and out. He's young, he's talented, he's gifted, and in a not great defensive class, I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up being the first defensive player taken. So who is the best defensive player in this 2024 NFL draft class? Teaser alert, there's 2 guys. Actually, let's go 3 guys in top 15 for DJ. Not unique, but that's kind of how most people's boards are going to stack up. Sound off for me in the comment section, the pinned comment of today's video right now. All right, number 7 is Malik Neighbors. I might have Neighbors higher a little bit. Offensive heavy class here. Brock Bowers is 8. No complaints. Awesome football player. Joe Alt is number 9, the Notre Dame defensive tackle. Awesome football player. Dallas Turner, we'll get to the other edge I like a lot here later on. But I think Turner is, first round grade. Not as good as Will Anderson, but a very good prospect in his own right. He's number 10. A surprise here at number 11. Taliese Fuaga, the Oregon State offensive tackle, who I think there is a universe that exists in which he goes off the board before number 12, Olu Fashanu, and certainly off before J.C. Latham at number 13, but offensive line. Fuaga's length is not necessarily ideal, but he is a mauler in the ground game. First round grade from me too. I love Olu Fashanu, kind of an inverse, not as good as in pass protect, or not as good as a run blocker, but awesome pass protector, great prospect. This is 4 offensive tackles in the top 13. That shows you how good this class is. Jared Verse is 14. I'm okay with it. Maybe a little bit earlier, but not that much earlier on the list. Brian Thomas Jr. is number 15. That one I like. Kind of the other LSU receiver. When you're big, tall, and fast, you're going to go early in the draft. The Colts at 15, by the way, are a great spot for him. Oh, look, 3 more offensive linemen. Yeah, this class is stacked up front. And we got more to come still, by the way. Troy Fautanu, who DJ put as a tackle. He might be a guard in the NFL, but just because of, again, some length concerns. But he was the best offensive lineman on the best offensive line in college football. Prime means are pretty good. Tyler Guyton and Amarius Mims, a little bit more raw, needs some more development, but the upside and traits could even be top 2 or top 3 in this loaded offensive line class. So if you are a team in the market for offensive line help, good news. There will be guys for you in the first round. Today's show made possible by our good friends over at PrizePicks. I'm a big fan of PrizePicks. It's just you against the numbers playing daily fantasy. You don't have to worry about battling thousands of other players and pros and sharks and sharps. It's just you against the numbers. Can you beat them? If you do, boom. It's that simple. You come out on top. 2 to 6 player stat projections. You can do the power play. It's all in. Got to get all 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever right. Or the flex play. And I love the flex play because it makes I come out a lot more on top. I'm really good about getting all but one right. So I do the flex play. Got to know your own strengths and weaknesses, man. Here's my flex play prize picks for the Super Bowl. Christian McCaffrey, more than 18.5 carries. Travis Kelce, more than 70.5 receiving yards. And Rashee Rice, less than 6.5 catches. You can take my picks as well and get a first deposit match up to $100 by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and using code CLNS. Again, first deposit match up to $100 with that URL and promo code prizepicks.com/CLNS. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. If you don't know the name Quinion Mitchell, you're probably not sub because we've talked about him. 19th on DJ's big board, the number 2 corner. Not sure he'll be number 2 for me, but look, if he played for Ohio State, he would be a household name. He doesn't. There are concerns that come along with that, but there's a lot of talent in that corner. First off-ball linebacker, Edgerrin Cooper. Everyone knows the name Jeremiah Trotter. I think DJ's right. I like Cooper a lot more. Not sure top 20 more, but there is plenty to like about his game and kind of a do-it-all linebacker in a maybe not a great round 1 class, but there's some really good day 2 players here. Some more, I think, likely round 1 picks. Liatu Latu and Byron Murphy, UCLA, Texas. Medical red flags for Latu. That's got to be sorted out. Not great length either. Kind of showing up early on in the Senior Bowl. And Byron Murphy out of Texas. 3 technique, very disruptive football player. Quarterback time, it's Bo Nix at number 23 overall. The differences in opinion in Bo Nix, not just from like media scouts, but the NFL is going to be vastly different. There might be some round 1 grades on him, like DJ has. There will be some round 3 or later grades on him. It's not there. I think Lance Ryan has a top 10 grade on him, which is insane to me. There's a lot of concerns I have, but the mobility, some of the accuracy is really intriguing, and he is a million times better than he ever was at Auburn. So prediction time. Will Bo Nix go in round 1? Y for yes, N for no. Get those predictions in for me in the comments section. And it's Rakestraw also kind of starting to rise up some boards here. I don't know if 24 might be a tinge high for me, but the more and more I look at this corner class, I go, he's a mid to late round 1 guy. He's a mid to late round 1 guy. Rakestraw can sneak in that range as well. Chop Robinson, production's not great. Athletic ability is, and those guys go early. The most surprising thing to me was Devontae Walker, or just Tez, the Kent State to UNC transfer. And the more and more I wonder if maybe DJ just likes vertical threats, which is fine. Everyone has their type. That's a very good vertical threat wide receiver. 26 is this is the thing I disagree with most. That's too early for me and his overall game. J.J. McCarthy, number 27, I think has more upside than Bo Nix does. Because where J.J. McCarthy is at age-wise is not that different than where Bo Nix was at when he was at Auburn. I think that stuff should be considered. The arm strength's really good. The mobility is impressive too. But there's a lot of bust potential as well. 3 more very possible round 1 defensive players here. Jerzon Newton. I'm a sucker for an undersized defensive tackle. Cooper DeJean has got, I think, more of a zone corner, but very good at that role. Great straight line speed too. I've been burned by the type of corner that Nate Wiggins is before, guys like Kyer Elam, but I like him a lot too. It's a dangerous game to play at corner. You don't want to just overreact to the misses over the years, but I think Wiggins in top 30 is a smart choice there. Now, the 2024 NFL Draft will be here before you know it. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button for more NFL Draft videos right here on Chat Sports. Jordan Morgan, not great length, by the way. That's going to be a red flag for many a team out there at number 31 overall. I will not lie to you guys. I have not done Darius Robinson yet. He's, of course, on my list. I have not gotten to him. So I was quite surprised to see DJ put him at 32. I know there's some very intriguing length there, but I got to do more work on that one. So I'm going to trust DJ's eyes on that player. 3 offensive players I like. Graham Barton out of Duke, interior offensive lineman. Jackson Powers Johnson. Oh, look, more offensive linemen in the top 35. It's a great class for it. JPJ has been great to begin the Senior Bowl, by the way. A.D. Mitchell was a little inconsistent for me, but the traits are good out of Texas. I still love Kool-Aid McKinstry, by the way. There's been a pretty steady drop for him in the media boards as things have gone along here. Not just DJ, it's his first one, but like just overall. Chance, I am missing something. I have visions of Tease Tabor dancing in my head, who I thought was going to be a star. And like people are like, he's slow. I'm like, yeah, but I don't see much of it on film. And then he was slow. And that's the concern right now with Kool-Aid McKinstry. That said, imagine not thinking a corner named Kool-Aid isn't going to be an awesome player. Could not be me. Who is your favorite NFL draft prospect in this year's class? McKinstry's not my favorite, but if I can get him in the beginning of round 2, he might be. Sound off for me who your guy is in the comments section. Dan Campbell is going to have Zach Frazier as his answer for this question, by the way. They won't take him. They're good at center. This is the dude who broke his leg when West Virginia was trying to move the ball downfield late in a game. And rather than not get off the field and make him, do the clock run off for call timeout, whatever, he crawled off the field with a broken leg. This is like, if you look up Glass Eater, football guy, it's going to be a picture of Zach Frazier in there. Coaches are going to love this dude. 2 more receivers, Keon Coleman, Troy Franklin. If you need separation from your receiver, it's not Keon Coleman's game, but I love his game beyond that. I think he should still be a round 1 player. Franklin's got a little thin, but he has speed. Number 40, Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. Medical concerns are a big red flag here. I think some of just beyond the medical, I think like being able to handle different pressures and when he's forced off his spot was fine against Texas. It was bad against Michigan. Which one is it? It's a little bit of both in the end. Plus the rest of his sample size too. Chance he goes round 1, it's very gambly for me. So how many quarterbacks do you think go in round 1 of the NFL draft? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Get your predictions in for me right now. All right, more players. JT Sanders and Xavier Worthy, 2 Texas boys, the clear-cut number 2 tight end, and another speedy wide receiver. Maybe that's just DJ's type. Kamari Lassiter, I think he's going to be a good corner out of Georgia. Plus, those guys always end up going in round 1. Lad McConkey. If anyone comps this man to like a Wes Welker or a Julian Edelman, we can call them out for it because that is not who he is. He offers you more outside ability than those guys ever did. My buddy comped him to Brandon Cooks, and I love that comp. That's my guy Dalton. I love that comp for him. Junior Colson, by the way, linebacker. Trauma for some fan bases that don't want more Michigan players, but he's a dog at linebacker. I like him being LB2. Chris Braswell, kind of an edge rusher out of Alabama. I think could sneak it back in round 1. Not an elite edge class this year. Peyton Wilson, if you told me pure talent, he's the best off-ball linebacker, I'd say, you know what? I get it. Double-digit surgeries is about as big of a medical red flag as you will find. Therefore, he is a day 2 pick by the Dallas Cowboys. Tavondre Sweat, run-stopping nose guard. Offers a little bit of pass rush juice, too, by the way. Marshawn Nealon, again, an edge out of Western Michigan. I love how Western Michigan has just different headshots from everybody else on ESPN, but I respect the hell out of it. Also, something he's getting off to a good start at the Senior Bowl as we film this. And then Malachi Corley. Everyone wants the next Deebo Samuel. There are some similarities here with their strengths and weaknesses and body types, but of course, you're not going to find many Deebos because Deebo is unique. Who did Daniel Jeremiah leave off of his top 50 list? I'm sure there are some prospects. Sound off for me in the comments right now. All right, better head coaching job. S for Seattle, C for the Commanders. Go ahead and vote for me. Right now, 70% of the pinned poll are going with the Seahawks, which I think is fair. I think more than ever, we can now argue in favor of the Commanders because that organization is trying to not be as poverty as it once was. All right, a $5 super chat before we sign off for the evening here from Mark. How many extra picks do we get for lost free agents? Jerry keeps getting burned with this quantity over quality. I'm afraid Jerry Jones will pick a tight end. 23 draft is a bust. They won't go tight end, at least not early. Don't worry about that. But yeah, year 1, that was the worst rookie class for anybody, which is bad when you're in the middle of a playoff run. The likely outcome for Dallas is a 5th and a 6th is what you should get in the comp pick category. You will likely be the second team that doesn't get a 7th round comp pick as well. You'll be one of the first teams cut off from the numbers the NFL uses. So unfortunately, you did not get the 7th. But you should get 2 picks for McGovern and for Dalton Schultz. If you have not already, please make sure you guys are subscribed. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV. More NFL videos for you here on the channel. No need to loop. Most of you guys watch the entire thing, which we appreciate. If you did miss something, it'll all be available on demand throughout the course of the week, which is also why you should subscribe. Plus, there will be more videos. Plus, NBA Live this week. With the trade deadline around the corner, hit that sub button so you don't miss out.